Yeah, and I also see them, they're highly vocal in the comments. We see your guys' comments all the time, man. We see your guys' comments and we know who's behind them. We know who the audience is because we track the analytics. And
Yep.
you guys are really loud on the internet, but in real life, Gen Z is really quiet.
That's true. What's up, y'all? This is the Untapped Potential Podcast, and today we're having a roundtable talk, the first one.
Yeah, the first of many, hopefully.
Yeah.
So Roundtable Talk is just going to be us talking around this round table here. I'm kicking it with my foot for the audio only listeners. And we're just going to talk about a bunch of different topics, things that are going on, in culture, things that we may not be necessarily aware of entirely. Like we'll talk about online role playing in this episode. That's a whole different niche of an animal that we can dive into. But yeah, we'll bring on, these different topics and we'll have our point of view on it.
Yeah, a lot of different things, right, going on in the world and culture, really like no holds bar. And also a little caveat, we're not experts in these topics.
Right.
So if we say something that's incorrect, feel free to call us out in the comments, educate us. This is a learning experience.
Right. For sure. And we're on TikTok live right now. So please, if you haven't already, follow us on TikTok. You'll find us under the same username handles as every other social media that we got. And yeah, TikTok is our biggest audience so far. So we're trying to grow that.
As of the recording of this episode, we're about to hit 2K. Our goal for the end of the season is what, like 3 to 5K? Yeah. I mean, sky's the limit really with TikTok because you get a viral TikTok going.
Yeah.
And those follows just come in.
To think of it, we only started this TikTok account season 2. So not even season 1. So maybe like 3/4 of the year.
Yeah. We started in like October 2021. So it's been about 6 months.
So yeah. So only 6 months. And we got like almost 2 million impressions on TikTok.
Yeah.
And crazy. And we're not even that big. So shout out to TikTok again.
We love you, TikTok.
All right. So first topic we can talk about overworking. Have you ever heard of that concept before?
Man, I felt overworked before. I don't know if I've heard about overworking. Yeah, I have though. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. So for those that don't know, overworking is the concept of you working multiple remote jobs, which, obviously with the pandemic, that's one of the benefits that we've gotten is the fact that we can do our full-time jobs now remotely. And people are really taking advantage of that. And so I was just deep diving into this topic just through like my own curiosity. And there's an entire subculture dedicated to teaching you how to like hide these jobs from your employers, essentially.
Right.
What do you think about that? Like,
man, honestly, in my opinion, it's like, go get the bag. You know? If you can get 2 jobs and you can do them, go for it. Because, I mean, people have been doing that forever, right? People could work 2 restaurant jobs or 2, like, 2 full-time jobs physically. Why not do it virtually where it actually makes a lot more sense?
Right, exactly. Yeah, growing up, my mom had 2 full-time jobs. She would work during the daytime, come home, maybe sleep for like an hour, and then go to her next night job. And so those are 2 full-time jobs. But what's interesting about this is people are actually doing their jobs simultaneously. So like their 8 to 5 job or 9 to 5, they'll do it, they'll be on the clock for one company and then also be on the clock for another company, and they'll schedule their meetings, sometimes overlapped. And there's a website, we'll go to it here. It's called Overemployed. And you've never seen this website?
No, I've never seen that website before. No.
So for those that are really interested, and it really depends on the industry that you're working in. It depends on, if you have that flexibility. So this is really big with like financial analysts and software development engineers, coders, like that type of industry where you are, I guess, benefiting from the fact that your job is remote and you can be remote, but doing that more than once is really interesting. So this website, overemployed.com, shows you, if you're interested, how to, pick up these like remote jobs and essentially teaching you the best ways to go about it.
Yeah.
And what I find really interesting is like, they call it what was it, career polygamy, which I thought was really funny because you are kind of hiding it, right? Like you are having like these multiple commitments at the same time.
Right.
And one way that they've really described the benefit from this is if you think about like I think they use the example of software development engineers. So nationally, depends on your market obviously, but nationally I think the average is for like a regular software development engineer, 150K per year.
Sounds about right.
But for a senior software development engineer, the national average is I think 200K. So if you were to work your job, go above and beyond, and then finally get promoted, you'll end up benefiting or having a 50K more salary per year, right? But if you were to have 2 regular software development jobs, again, the national average is $150,000 a year. Just by working 2 regular jobs and just meeting the minimum of what you're expected to do, you can rake in $300K a year.
And in that example, it makes more sense, financial sense at least, to have the 2 jobs rather than to work toward that promotion where you're going to be working more anyway, right?
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I know when I was trying to get promoted in previous jobs, I felt like I was working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Like I would be in the office like 9, 10 at night, like trying to prove that I can, rise above to meet like the expectation that this employer wanted me to meet to be at this level and get promoted. But my benefit would only, if I was a software development engineer, I would only benefit 50K. Whereas if I just work the minimum with any job, I'm getting paid for 2 jobs. If I were to do these 2 jobs and just work the basic minimum and just have no expectation that I would ever get promoted, I could be raking in 300K a year. That's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Man, I wonder how they do it though when they do have overlapping meetings. Or let's say you're doing your work and your boss randomly calls you midday, or somebody that you're working with calls you midday, but you're on a meeting on another, your other job. How do you like balance that?
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky, man. And I haven't really found a good answer. I found like some approaches you can do. One approach is they have their meeting calendars blocked and scheduled. So what they do is like for these software development engineers, they'll do their job in sprints. So like 90 minutes, they'll do one job, they'll take a quick break, and then the next 90 minutes, they'll work on their second job, take a break, and then kind of repeat that throughout the day. And they'll bake in like different, if like they have to drop off the kids, they'll put that in their calendar, but they're really structured with their calendar organization. So I think like sometimes they'll get away with them just being in another meeting. So if your boss tries to ping you and says you're in another meeting, then it's kind of like, and you're remote, then you don't really, there's nothing really to question about that unless they're not getting the work done. Right.
Right.
And that's where I fear like a lot of things would slip, because even though like you're meeting the minimum, if your employer is expecting you to go above and beyond, which a lot of people do, then I can see where it becomes really hard.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like it probably wouldn't be sustainable long term though.
Right.
Because man, I'm doing work and school right now. I'm doing work full time, school part time. Even that is stretching my time kind of thin.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
like I got all these commitments in the afternoon. I got to get schoolwork done. I can't imagine having 2 jobs, man. Like I could do it. I'm sure I could. Maybe 6 months.
Right.
Crazy, maybe a year. But longer than that, I could imagine like burnout is an issue.
Yeah.
Doing that too.
Yeah.
But hey, for the money though, you do that for a full year, that's an extra 150K in the software, development world that you didn't have before. So,
right.
And
you can really put that investment towards, things that you think would appreciate in value. A lot of people are bullish on crypto. If crypto really booms over the next couple of years, like it has in the past, then if you store away that additional, chunk of salary that you're getting every year and put it towards something that's appreciating rapidly.
Right.
And then potentially you could retire earlier. So you could be overworking for maybe a shorter period of time.
Right.
Than what your normal career would have been, but you also benefit from retiring early. But at the same time, nothing's ever guaranteed, right? So if something happens and you have to continue working after when you think you would have retired through this, it's like, well, it's kind of a gamble, I think.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
And I think you also got to start thinking about taxes, because at that, at that income bracket, you're definitely in the highest tax bracket.
Right.
So you got to start thinking about ways to, cut down your tax liability. So maybe using like, maxing out your Roth, maxing out your 401k. And you for sure need like a financial advisor at that point, probably.
Yeah. Or what Lucas said, what is a cost aggregate analysis?
Cost aggregate analysis. Yeah. Invest in real estate
Right.
and write it all off that way. But yeah, that's cool, man. I think it's cool that, people are finding ways to, maximize their income with like the new technology and taking advantage of the work from home situation. So
Absolutely, man.
yeah, man. Probably not something I could do, but
Yeah,
hats
me
off to
neither.
them though, man. Shout out to you working 2 jobs.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
If there's any
it's
overworkers here, comment below. Do you have any other time outside of work? Like that's the real question I have.
Yeah, for real. If you're an overworker, for sure comment, follow us, let us know how y'all are doing it, because man, that's crazy. I'd love to have a conversation with one of y'all.
Yeah. So online role playing. Have you heard of this at all?
No, but man, I can only imagine what it is. I think I've seen something where like some guys working for Subway in like the metaverse.
Yeah.
Is it something like that?
Kinda, yeah. So have you ever heard of LARPing?
I have heard of LARPing.
So
I don't
it's-
know much about it, but yeah.
It's live action role playing. There's like these festivals that they have throughout the country. Obviously with COVID, I don't know if they still have them, but in back in the day, they used to have them where like it would be themed around a certain time period.
Right.
So like medieval times, for example, people would dress up as like medieval people and they'll go into character. And that whole time that they're there, they're in character the whole time. I've seen this with like Western towns too. When I was a kid, we used to do field trips like this fake Western town in the outskirts of Vegas.
Right.
I forget what it's called. I think it was Bonnie Ranch.
Bonnie Ranch. Okay.
Unless I'm thinking of the brothel. I might be thinking of the brothel, but
That's funny.
it was like everyone's in character the whole time, and sometimes like there's action sequences where like they're fighting each other and they have to pretend like they're dying or something like that. It's really crazy, but
Yeah.
now that we're in the 21st century, they've taken LARPing to a new level, and so it's this online role playing, and you see this a lot in Grand Theft Auto actually. So people on Grand Theft Auto, they'll go on these like servers, and what they'll do is they'll pretend to be specific like types of essential services.
Right.
And I think you could like do other things too, but like the essential services is like a big niche where somebody can sign up to be a cop on this GTA server,
Right.
and the server will provide them with like the outfit, the car, even like the radio communication is like, you would think it's an actual cop, like they're using the codes, and it's wild, man. So I have a clip. We'll pull it up right now.
So it gets crazy realistic.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
So this is one example of this GTA role play.
Pit maneuver once we get towards the bridge area here at postal code 1104, 1104.
Copy, pit maneuver 1104, standing by.
Oh, heck, chat.
Yo, this is wild, man.
Let's get after it, baby.
Yo, and I'm not gonna lie, people do some shit on these servers too.
We're stopped at, he's out of the vehicle. 1102, 1102.
No way.
Don't jump over the bridge, bro.
You see this?
Go to the water.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
he busted out the parachute. Does this guy not have one? Why would he do that?
He just dove into the water.
How to not police park.
Oh, so
wow.
that's wild.
Okay. So people are actually, yeah, like we just said, like they're playing this role and they're trying to kind of
Yeah, they're
make it more realistic, make the game more realistic for people.
yeah. I've even seen people on there who work like regular Subway jobs.
See, okay, that's probably what I saw.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I've seen like characters or people who are role playing characters on these servers. They'll go into a store and they'll pretend to order a sandwich, and then there's somebody on the other side like who's also a part of like this world working this job, serving them their sandwich, and it's just crazy to me, man, because it's like,
That's
you know,
wild.
why would you work a Subway job in a fake like server
Yeah.
and not do it in real life? And like there's a time commitment that I think you have to commit to these servers too in order to stay on the server and contribute.
Do they pay you for this time commitment?
Well, I don't know. I don't know too
Yeah.
much about that.
That's interesting. I think that tells a lot about like what the future of the metaverse and this like virtual reality is gonna look like,
Mhm.
though. You know, because if you're just going in there and kind of playing in a free world, you're less likely to get kind of like retained or attached to that world. But if you have a role that you need to play and people are relying on you to do it, I could see it becoming like just more common, and
Right.
people might start to prefer their online role preferred to their real life role,
Right.
and that line might even become more blurred as we
Right.
go, which is scary, kind of.
That is scary too, because you can be anybody on the internet. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw a guy pretend to be a cop. Who knows if he's an actual cop or not in real life? He probably isn't.
Yeah.
But you can do some shit on these servers too, and live out some weird ass fantasies.
Right. Because
So-
maybe in real life you wanted to be a cop, but you just couldn't do it, or physically maybe you can't do it.
Right.
And so the server gave you that identity, and you just prefer that identity over your real life identity,
Yeah.
which is crazy mind blowing. But
Yeah, we're getting into Ready Player One
Yeah.
territory right now.
seriously,
There's
man, that's
also a
wild.
different type of role play too. I don't know if you've seen this. It's truck driving simulations.
Oh, I have seen this. Yeah.
See if this sound is on. That looks like an actual truck, but it's just a bunch of monitors around this fake truck.
Mm.
And so he's driving this Kenworth truck simulator on PC with the steering wheel being like the actual mouse, and like
Yeah.
every like keyboard action is like on this fake dash. Like this is like stepping into, it almost looks real.
Yeah, it does, because the windows are all monitors and they're in the same angles that the real windows would be. So I mean,
Right.
you really can't tell the difference. You know what I could kind of see this as, and what came to mind is this could almost be preparing or kind of like feeding the AI or something for like an artificial driver.
Mhm.
Or maybe in the future, truck drivers won't actually be driving the truck. They'll be doing it from like their living room, but it's
Ooh.
controlled to a real truck,
Yeah.
which I could see being kind of risky. But I mean, if the technology's there,
Right.
it's like, why not?
Yeah. Even
Or
with
do
Tesla.
surgery and stuff.
Oh,
yeah, like
surgery
you can
too?
get doctors to start doing that type of stuff too. It's like you could be doing surgery across the country, just looking through a monitor, controlling like robotic arms.
Right. I was
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with Tom Segura. He's a
Yeah.
comedian, and he was talking about this nerve surgery that he did on his arm, and this was a technique from a doctor in Brazil. And basically I think what he was saying is like they moved one nerve to another on his forearm because he broke his forearm in
wow.
something. But this was like a new surgery that the surgeon that was performing it on him, he's like, yeah, this is my first time. And to hear that as a patient, you're
Yeah,
like,
you don't want to hear that.
yeah, you don't want to hear that, dude. Like,
Oh,
yeah, this is
man.
my first time doing this surgery that, will give you feeling in your arm again.
Yeah.
But like, think about that, like this doctor in Brazil, instead of having and training somebody else, like they can charge an even bigger rate and do it themselves,
Yeah,
but virtually,
for sure. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think there's a lot of good that can come from it, but I think like anything else, when there's a new technology or we're moving forward, there's going to be a lot of people that are afraid and skeptical.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's this other thing too. Truck simulator influencers. So like
Hold up. This is crazy.
this one, I think she does planes. So, I mean, there's like, you can develop a whole identity and have your real identity be around this fake one.
I think this is just becoming so common that like in the future, people are going to be like, can you believe it? Back then, people only lived their real life.
Yeah.
They didn't have the option to live virtually.
Right.
People are just going to be mind blown that we were like just so ancient that we didn't have the ability to live a virtual life,
Right. Because in the virtual world, this person can be a truck driver. They could also be a doctor in real life.
Yeah.
Like, who knows, man? You can do a lot.
Yeah, we're going to be like 60, be like, yeah, back in my day, I used to just have to stick to real life. I couldn't just drive that Kenworth like from my living room.
Right.
It's crazy, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I'm excited though. I'm excited to see where the technology goes and kind of the possibilities. And who knows, it might just make life more efficient and just give people more free time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty excited actually with where we're headed.
Yeah, man. So one thing I've noticed, just kind of a general trend, is that less people are having kids now. Like people, in their 20s, right? Early 30s. Less people are having kids. More people are just having pets and kind of almost like spoiling them like as if they were their kids.
Right. And yeah, a lot of people don't realize this because when I talk to people, they think, oh yeah, there should be a lot of babies coming out. We're actually in a birth rate decline. Right. We have since 2020. I mean, obviously, when you look at history and you see, highly disruptive events like the pandemic, was people don't want to create children in that type of environment. And so naturally, we're starting to see a birth rate decline. And so far, it hasn't recovered. So people are having less kids. And also people who are having kids are older. Like the average age is older now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are just moving towards dogs. I know personally, like I'm 30 and a lot of people that I know around my age, like they have kids, but I don't. And I think having a dog is the real like first step in having a kid. And it feels like a kid. I know you just had a dog too.
No, for sure. Like people underestimate how much responsibility having a dog is. Like it's crazy. Like a dog is so much time. They get sick. You got to take them to appointments. Sometimes they don't want to eat, so you got to try different foods. You got to walk them, take them potty, love them. It's crazy. Like it's a huge commitment, right? If you want to raise a dog properly, right? You could always just leave them chained up in the backyard, like people used to do like 30 years ago, and the dog's just gonna be antisocial.
Yeah, we're not advocating for that. So PETA, don't come after us.
We love our dogs. We love our dogs. Otto's a great dog. Nova's a great dog. We love our dogs, but. Yeah, no, I think it's pretty cool. And another term that I'm seeing more frequently is DINK. I don't know if they're actually called like DINKs, but dual income, no children.
Yeah.
And these are couples that are dual income, no kids. These are couples, two people that are probably in their late 20s, early 30s, make great money, and they just have no kids. Right. And what they do is they probably are just buying a home because in this economy, realistically, it takes two incomes to just qualify for a home. Most of the time. And, traveling the world and just enjoying their lives or working up in their career instead of investing in having a kid. And this is on purpose. It's kind of, I think it's kind of just a change in culture. Right. Back then it was like the expectation is you get married in like your early 20s, start having kids. By the time you're 30, you're like on your third one. Maybe the wife is stay at home or the husband is stay at home. So one person focuses on, raising the kids, one person's bringing the money in, but now it's just different. I guess the modern family is more like, two people making good money with a dog or two. They want to get risky, it's crazy.
Yeah. And just thinking about it, I tell Darcy all the time, we're a couple DINKs. And it's funny too, because we're still not planning on having kids, but we're looking at other properties to invest in too. So like instead of childbearing and child raising, like that's kind of where our immediate attention is. And not necessarily because we don't think we'll ever not have kids, but at this point in time, like that's just something that we're still trying to build our lives,
Right.
And I feel like, the way that we were raised, like having the white picket fence, being married early and like having kids young and like, I feel like that type of mentality, unless you come from a family that can financially support it, if you're on your own, like many of us are, I mean, you look at the average salary, I think it's what, like $60,000 a year?
About. And I mean, a lot of new grads are barely making that. Like
right.
If that, yeah.
With college education too. And $60,000 a year in this market, because we live in Seattle, it's really expensive. Like you cannot buy a home and live off of that one wage like you did, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. I think $60K in Seattle is now considered low income. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the whole mentality of like, doing all that stuff has a lot of costs associated with it. Having kids, the fact that like daycare expenses I hear from colleagues of mine, it's like $1,500, $2,000 a month. Like you get like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of demand for it, and that's the reason why the prices are so high. But, I can't imagine paying another mortgage for somebody else to look after my kid.
Yeah.
And like, if you were forced to live on a single income, like that's just not happening.
Yeah. It almost seems like having kids is a luxury.
Right.
Would you say that, just the higher cost of living is the main thing to blame, or do you think there's other factors that are influencing this trend?
I think there's a bunch of different things, but I think that one of the biggest barriers is that high cost of living.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can say too, like, yeah, just move out to like the suburbs or like a rural area. But, you know, before 2020, like there weren't a lot of opportunities for
Yeah.
remote work like there are now. And even now with employment, they're like updating the salary to be more representative of where you live. So even if you were to move out to a rural area, your salary would be adjusted for that community too. So it's not
Right.
like you're bankrolling, you know, Seattle salary in the middle of nowhere, Montana. You know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, something's got to happen because there might be just like a population shortage, you know,
Right.
a few years from now because nobody's having kids.
Yeah. Well, even Japan is experiencing that now
Yeah.
where there's been such a gap between the average age of the workforce, I believe, and the people that are retiring, that it's they're finding it difficult to fill jobs.
Yeah.
So because so many people are just getting older, it's an aging population, and it's just if we get to that point, we're gonna start seeing, you know, even more programs associated with child rearing. You know,
Right.
like, you know, here's an extra tax credit to have more than 2 kids or something like that. I can
Right.
see it getting to that point, but
Yeah.
obviously it's really early in the stage of the birth decline, at least for this period of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
Maybe it
Long-term.
won't matter because we'll all be in the metaverse working
Right.
these like role playing jobs.
Yeah, maybe you can be in the metaverse and you can have a 10-kid family.
Yeah. Live out the dream. You know, have
Yeah.
the white picket fence, 5,000 square foot home,
Right.
you know, 10 bedrooms, one for each kid.
Have you
Oh,
ever
man.
played video games like that? Where
Is it like The Sims? Or I've never really played The Sims like that, but that's what I imagine it is because it was like
Yeah,
you
there was
know?
this game on Xbox. I remember it's called Fable.
Fable. Okay.
Yeah, and it's this it's like based off of like these medieval times or whatever.
Right.
And there's like a game ability where like you can get married, right? And you can have sex with your wife and have kids. And the whole point of it is like you're supposed to be immersed in like this reality, like this is your world. And so in order to foster the relationships with everyone around you, like you have to like present your wife with, I think, flowers, and like you actually have to like cultivate the relationship.
Right.
Same thing with your kid too. Like you have to, I don't know, like give them treats or something like
yeah.
that.
Press X to feed Johnny.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was probably the worst dad. I was probably like, this wife was like a single mom, bro. Cause
Oh man, you're a deadbeat Fable
yeah,
dad.
yeah, I was a deadbeat Fable dad.
That's funny, man. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No kids.
No kids, man.
No
so
kids.
not at least for us.
Let's see. What's the next one?
Are millennials lame now?
Are millennials lame now? Okay, so I wanted to talk about this because I've been seeing a huge trend ever since like TikTok came up. Like a lot of Gen Z is now, you know, they're growing up. They're like teenagers probably now. Some of them, the older ones, are in their late teens, early 20s even now. And a lot of them are just roasting millennials,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like, man, I don't know how to feel about this because for me personally, I was born in 95. So I'm kind of a cusp kid. I was born like right in between where millennial transitions to Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say I identify more millennial just because like I grew up on, I had an older brother who was for sure a millennial. So I grew up on that music and kind of that culture, right? But yeah, it's crazy because what I've been seeing on TikTok is just roasting of millennials, like the way that millennials dress, the words. Like I guess they roast millennials a lot on like just being huge coffee drinkers, just having an obsession with coffee, which I can definitely see.
Yeah.
And also just calling dogs like doggos, like that type of lingo. And one of the words that they use to describe millennials is chuggy. Chuggy, yeah. It's kind of a word that was coined to describe like just cringy millennial behavior.
Huh.
Yeah, been seeing that a ton on TikTok, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of like, because I mean, for me growing up, like the generation that would get bashed a lot was boomers, right? Like, okay, boomer, you know, that was a big thing, or just like making fun of like that generation. And like at that time, millennials were like the cool, hip, new generation. I mean, the word millennial just sounds cool, you know, it's different because all the other generations were just Gen X, Gen Z. I guess boomers had their own own little word too. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just think it's interesting. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think the way that I've looked at it was you brought up a good point. We used to make fun of boomers. I feel
Yeah.
like now millennials have transitioned to the age where boomers used to be, and so
Yeah.
the next generation is making fun of the older one, and it's just kind of like a continuation of that. The other thing I
Right.
noticed too, Gen Z style, they're doing a lot of like 90s retro clothes. Like
Yep.
you see them wear it a lot, and I feel like you've heard the saying, "What is old becomes new again."
Yep.
That happens. Like the longer I stay on this planet, the more I realize that, because it feels like just what kids are making fun of us for liking, they're actually liking. They just don't want to say it publicly.
Exactly.
And like they're taking on like our styles and influences, but then at the same time making fun of us for not being cool and like trendy and stuff. And it's really,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just that adolescent stage at this point of the generation, right?
Yeah.
Where they're maturing into their own likes and tastes, but at the same time they think like other styles from back in the day is just whack, when in reality they're mirroring a lot of that.
Right. And one thing I noticed, like just in this last year, like you said, is that 90s style coming back. Looser clothes, like
Right.
no longer doing the skinny jeans, now having like the big, baggier jeans, baggier shirts,
Mm-hmm.
lots of different colors in the clothes, a lot like a 90s style, which I think is cool, like I actually kind of like that. I feel like we were kind of in the same style for so long, like the skinny jeans, the tighter jackets, tighter fitting clothes. It's kind of nice to see something different
Right.
being
Right.
trendy again.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just waiting for the denim shorts to come back, bro.
Oh man, the jorts.
The yorts, yeah.
You're a jorts kind of guy, the real tight ones. Oh man,
Dude, I used to have ones that were pretty baggy when I was in grade school, and they
Yeah.
would hang over my kneecaps.
Oh
it was
yeah,
like-
the South Pole ones.
Yeah, exactly.
You ever see that brand? I think they sold it at Macy's. I think South Pole was like a huge brand, like when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, I remember growing up, and they still do. My grandma and my dad's side of the family, they grew
Yeah.
up on the East Coast, and so Fubu. You mentioned that other brand. They were really
Fubu too.
Yeah, they were really
Yeah.
popular on the East Coast, and they used to send me all these clothes that I used to wear. Oh yeah, we're pulling it up on
Oh
the
yeah. Oh my
the computer.
goodness, man. Yeah, this South Pole right here. This was probably the best way to show you how people were dressing when I was in maybe more like that shirt right there. Yeah, with
This
the
one?
big font. Yeah,
Oh,
people were
yeah.
rocking that with those shorts. And yeah, this was, I mean, I was in elementary school from like 2001 through like
Oh, yeah,
2006, 2007-ish.
The
Yeah.
side font is what really throws it back.
Yeah, that's all I would get. I'd go to Macy's. My mom would, no, not Macy's. It was J.C. Penney. My mom would take me to J.C. Penney, and I'd stock up on my South Pole.
This is classic baggy ass jeans
Yeah,
too.
you're about to see some Gen Z kids rocking this and saying that they invented it, but hey,
Yeah.
it's been
And then
here.
they're gonna make fun of us for not being cool, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. One thing though I do respect about Gen Z, kind of going back to the whole work culture and the new way that things are doing. I really like how Gen Z is like really firm on setting boundaries, and they're not willing to just take a job that's gonna pay them well and settle for it.
Right.
Like if their needs aren't fully met, they're just gonna quit the job and go find another one.
Right.
Which I fully respect about Gen Z, because I feel like even our millennials, Gen X, especially the boomers, we were more like, let's stick at one company and like build a reputation, build those connections, and if you got to eat some shit your first few years, like so be it, but you got to start at the bottom. Gen Z is more like, no, I want to be respected, I want to be paid like market rate at least, and I want like a scooter at work too.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? Like they're definitely making their demands met. And I think that's the way to do it. I think we live in a time where we could provide those things, and they see that, and they're advocating for that. So
yeah.
shout out to Gen Z in that respect.
Yeah, and I also see them, they're highly vocal in the comments. We see your guys' comments all the time, man. We see your guys' comments, and we know who's behind them. We know who the audience is because we track the analytics. And you guys are really loud on the internet, but in real life, Gen Z is really quiet.
That's true. That's true. I feel like Gen Z, like they're loud on the internet, but they're a little socially awkward in person. But
right.
I think it makes sense because they're like the iPad kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were probably like, 3 or 4 years old playing on an iPad. They were probably born like 2005, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were like 3 or 4 in 2008. I don't know if the iPad was out, but there was probably some iteration of it out
Right.
by then. And yeah, I mean, these kids pretty much grew up with the internet their whole life. So they're just super comfortable there, but when it comes to that in-person interaction, they probably didn't have as many opportunities as, kids who probably didn't grow up with such advanced, technology like we did.
Right. Do you think the advent of the iPad was a good thing or bad thing for our society, for kids?
I'll be honest, I've never owned an iPad personally. I think it's cool, but man, yeah, I don't know. I've seen my nephew; he loves to be on it. He'll just stay on the little tablet and just watch YouTube videos and all that. I think it's cool because it kind of there's a lot of learning opportunities for sure online, but like anything else, it could be overused and it could turn into a negative thing real quick.
Right.
You
And I
know?
think we saw that with the TV too,
Yeah.
a little bit, where kids would be glued to the TV. I know I was glued to the TV. And for better or worse, I saw my first boobs on the internet or on TV.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
My dad had a black box. I fucking, when they weren't at home, dude, I'd fire that thing up and see what was on HBO, dude.
Oh man, that's funny.
So I mean, like you said, it could be used for good and bad.
I think it just comes down to parenting at the end of the day. Like a kid is going to have the technologies that's available, but the parents need to moderate how it's used, which I know nothing about because I have no kids, going back to the fact that, our generation isn't really having as many kids. But yeah, I think it comes down to parenting for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we were to ever have kids, I don't know how early I would get them to adopt that. I feel like there needs to be longer term studies.
For sure.
Because it's only been, 10, 12 years since the iPad came out. So
yeah. I think anybody, not just kids, but people just need to get physical exercise and also physical socialization. I think that's just healthy. So maybe just finding a balance,
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So this is the first episode of many, hopefully, for the Roundtable Talk series. And so if you guys liked the content that we talked about, let us know. Comment below on our YouTube channel, on our clips. I mean, really, wherever. Let us know if you liked it, what other topics you guys have in mind for us to chat about. And let us know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this personally. And so, if y'all liked it, leave a comment. Man, follow us on TikTok. Like I said, TikTok is pretty much our biggest platform right now. We're going to be doing a lot more lives. For those of y'all that are on the TikTok live, man, shout out to y'all. Thank you for tuning in. So we're going to wrap up here today. But expect more of these roundtable talks in the future.
For sure. And catch us next time.
Yep. Peace.